Today, something a little bit different because this is a response video.
Diablo 4 director responded to my video. What
Response
the fuck?
video to Blizzard Entertainment because yes, the lads from the Diablo team sort of responded to a story that I suppose we essentially were the genesis of. It was a fairly interesting situation. Now, to give you a quick catch up on this, right? A survey went out to some players, and this survey contained just a whole bunch of information of, you know, what would you prefer in various different editions of a new Diablo expansion.
Yes, yes. Basically, Blizzard went and they put out a post showing a bunch of different stuff, like would you be okay with them adding in like extra storage space or you know, legendary effects that are available early for people that pay money or pre-order. Like this is in Diablo 4. This is a survey that went out. The survey actually went out with these questions.
It's the kind of market research that companies like this do absolutely all the time. And a few of the things in the survey, to our minds, well, they were rather concerning. They absolutely represented the sort of thing that Diablo 4 players would not want. And as I said in the video, things that we think Diablo 4 developers would absolutely not want.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out this story rather exploded. So we covered it. Then it got what I call citation circles, where one of the big news websites covers your video, and then another place cites them covering it.
And then so it just becomes official news that everybody acknowledges is real because one person made it up. Yeah, he's totally right.
And then it just spreads across everywhere. So now if you type in Diablo survey into Google News, we've got Metro UK, Game Rant, The Gamer, PC Games Zen, Kotaku, Dexerto, VG247, and many others. Interestingly, though, they all far more went with the headline, considers £100 Diablo 4 expansion in leaked survey, allegedly surveyed.
I guarantee you, by the way, that for the Diablo 4 expansion, there will be a version of the expansion that's worth $100. It might be 90, but if it's less than 90, I will be amazed.
About a $100 expansion, so rather than go with the angle of the stash space, it does seem that the various fan sites thought that the £100, £100 headline would be the bigger ticket thing to get those clicks. Of course, not to be outdone, the editing team behind Asmongold TV certainly did do what they do, which is,
we really do what we do, don't we? Oh, we really do what we do. Damn, true. Blizzard is milking Diablo 4.
At release, the Asmongold reaction video to our video entitled Blizzard is milking Diablo 4. Now, something to be aware of here. You know, this is not about an action that Blizzard have taken. This is about the contents of
it's about an action that they might be taking, though, right? And look, dude, look at the fucking thumbnail. Give dollar with the IV. With like the fucking Diablo 4, like this is so fucking good. It's literally a perfect thumbnail.
Survey. So, you know, milking D4, are they? Will they? You know, at least
we're milking them milking D4.
Doesn't seem that that's a thing that's going to be happening right now, and we'll get to that. So the combo of that title, that thumbnail, and the eminently clickable face of one Mr. Sakrar, that did all, of course, lead to this getting 535,000 views. Basically within like a day and a half, 2 days. I imagine it will go pretty damn far. Then, of course, the Diablo 4 developers actually had a live stream planned for the 30th of November. This is the live stream, and today it's time to talk about their response to us, as well as the other things that are going on with Diablo 4 in this video that is powered by our members at bellular.ghost.io. There, they've been getting early access to our content, and they've also been getting Loading Screen, which is the newsletter that we publish every single weekday, where basically you will know everything that's going on about the news. Also, we're all hanging out over on our over in the Members Lounge Discord server, which is all very fun, and it is the best way to support the work that we do here. So
I really think that, like, whenever you step back and you think about it, Belluar's done such a great job, like, moving from doing only World of Warcraft content to doing gaming news in general. It's like such a transition that so many people fail at. And I think that, like, not only has he done it, but he's actually grown a lot after doing it. For news, it's insanely good. Yeah, it's actually really fucking impressive, man. Because Belluar and I, like, we both used to only do WoW content. Like, that used to be it.
You can join up there if you want to support the mission. With that said, let's talk about what happens. So, does Diablo 4 plan to add pay for power? Basically, no. No is the developer response. They recapped the implemented and currently planned changes they have for stash space in the game, and they said, no, we've been very clear about this, and it continues to be true. And this is 100% the case, because in our original clear about this, and it continues to be
pointed out in the original video,
true.
Their global PR director stated no pay for power. Yeah, but like, then why'd you put it in the survey? You wouldn't put in the survey, would you like to pay $5 to instantly kill a boss? Right? You wouldn't put in the survey buying a level boost to 100. Right? So what I'm saying is that the fact that there are so many questions, and a person in chat, whenever I originally talked about this, brought up a good point, and I want to address that first before I say what I'm going to say, is they said that on certain surveys, there are kind of like disqualification questions that if you answer a certain question a certain way, they disqualify the entire response because it's a bullshit response. However, I don't think that's the case with this because there are so many different questions that are on the same spectrum. And what my concern is that there is a spectrum of very likely and very unlikely things that can occur in Diablo 4, right? And at a certain point into the very unlikely category, Blizzard would logically never ask the question of, like, for example, do you want your guns from Call of Duty put in Diablo 4 and you can just shoot all the enemies with your M16? They would never put that question in a survey, right? So that means, logically, that adding stash space and making other types of, like, essences, or not essences, legendary aspects, pay only or pay to get early is more reasonable than that is. All I'm saying is that there is a spectrum, and things that get on a survey are on that spectrum. Do you see my logic here? Comparative probability. Yes, that's my point. Now, I don't think it's time to light our hair on fire and be like, oh my God, it's going pay to win. It's going to be pay to win. I can't believe they said they weren't going to do it, but now they're doing it. No, but it is a cause for, what's happening here?
And this is 100% the case because in our original video, we pointed out how their global public relations director stated no pay for power in the game.
I think you're right.
And we were essentially just trying to say, listen, we're not saying the developers want to do this, but it is in a market research survey. Therefore, we should make our voices heard that this is not the sort of thing that we will really sort of tolerate.
He's totally right.
Going on in the game. Totally so ultimately, what we have here is no plans for paid for power, no plans for stash space being paid for, and this is excellent because what we have is a full denial from the Diablo 4 development team, and that means that if any suit wants to change this and perhaps go with some of the more dastardly seeming things from that survey, well, they're going to basically step on a very large landmine. Just that I suppose unlike a landmine, the whole point here is it's not secret. It will be very clear that this will be a betrayal, not only of their global PR director, not only of various things they've said, but also the very direct words of some of their more senior developers in this video. So,
yeah, I think that's a good point. Bellier does bring up a good point, and them directly refuting it on camera, being like, this is the thing that you've heard about, we're not doing it. That I think that does count for a lot. It's a huge thing.
Overall, what this represents is basically a big old community win, and while they may be frustrated that our video, I suppose, led to this story, in a way, I do think this is good for the developers because it gives them a solid opportunity to directly say no to the rumor mill. Obviously, in the response, they were not able to say anything about where this story came from. They weren't able to talk about the market survey and perhaps put that survey into context, which is what we did in our video. They can basically just say that they have no plans. Now, could this sort of thing change? Yeah, look, it could. There are many instances of people saying no cash shop, no this, no that, and a few years passes and that sort of thing happens.
Right.
At the very least, this is a good win for us for now.
Like a good example is the Terrasland developers. So Do I still have the picture? Yes. Okay, so basically they said the game wasn't pay to win. And what they mean by it not being pay to win is that you can't pay real money to buy an item in the game, because that would be pay to win. But what you do is you pay real money to buy gold, and then you buy the weapon with the gold, which is not pay to win. That's a fair and balanced monetization system. I should save this one, honestly. This one's getting saved. D4 in 6 months. Okay, so there we go. Yeah, this is a masterpiece. This needs to be an NFT, guys.
Now, you might be thinking, is this just some fake drama? Why did you guys bring it up? What's going on? Well, basically, do I trust the actual developers themselves? Like, you know, as people? Yes, I do.
I also trust that they don't make the final decisions.
Some arms of management at that company? The answer there is no, I do not. I do not trust these companies to not betray their developers. Another story going on is the insane Destiny 2 starter pack that is such a bad value that it's basically scamming new players, sort of entirely predicated on them not having game knowledge and not being able to place the contents of that starter pack within the correct context. Of course, that's been reverted, but that's just a really good example of every dev on that Bungie team probably thinks that this is a terrible idea and it never should have happened, but they were betrayed by their leadership. So I do not trust the leadership to not betray the developers. And you may say, well, some of the people in this...
I also, I don't completely... I very much don't trust the competence of developers. I just don't. Like, if you want to go back to the problem that they had with the bosses... These are also the developers that made the Blood Bishop. Need I say more? So, no, I'm not going to just go and be like, oh, okay, well, haha, I guess they're going to be right about it. I'll also say, contextualizing all this, I am very positive about Diablo 4 comparatively to how I was at launch. But the game has a lot farther to go. And Uber Lilith is one of the worst examples of Pinnacle Boss. Yeah, it's terrible. Like, do you think that they even understand that problem? And I think the answer probably is no. They probably don't understand that problem.
Video, our leaders, I would say, yes, totally, but perhaps when it comes to the money, they won't be calling every single shot. And indeed, this sort of thing, you know, these market surveys can be relevant. A really good example here is the changes in the monetization of World of Warcraft Classic that came in with TBC Classic, which of course were they were kind of signposted by some surveys that leaked, and that does mean that it is relevant, it is right to talk about it, and it is a newsworthy story.
Yep, you were
but
able
now
to
that
buy
we
a boost.
are here with Diablo 4, I will recap some of the other things that have went on. So, what's basically happening is on December 12th, they've got a new event coming in called Midwinter Blight, where a storm has descended in the fractured
Purple
peaks,
Helltides.
a new threat has emerged, we meet this kind of cool-looking bard character, and
I wonder how the developers feel about every single time they add a colored area. Nobody even knows what it's actually called. They just call it whatever color it is, Helltide. Like, they should just be like, yeah, so now we have green, blue Helltides, and it's like water elementals. Yeah, we were going to come up with a name, but we know you guys don't care about the name, so it's called Blue Helltides. It happens every hour.
The Red Cloak Terror, who certainly does not look like a man popularized by the Coca-Cola company. But there you go. Yes, the Red Cloak horror boss honestly does look pretty cool. The way this works is you kill mobs in and around that area in the Fractured Peaks. You'll get some trophies. You can take those back, and you can turn those into cosmetics. So, all seems fairly reasonable, and also there's a 10% XP elixir that works everywhere that can come from this event as well. Lots of X.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can play. Somebody says, poor leadership can affect every facet of a product. If you don't have an environment that supports experimentation and creativity, you get milquetoast results, because what dev would want to take risks if it will reflect poorly on their performance is measured? I think you bring up a very good point, and that could definitely be true. And you're right that a lot of the bad decisions that happen in the game are probably a result of cultural and systematic problems as well. But I'm not going to hand wave every single bad decision that's been made in this game as, oh, it's all the corporate's fault. Corporate didn't tell them that they had to make the colors of the fireballs on Uber Lilith the same color as the ground. Like, they didn't tell them they had to do that. Like, at a certain point, there has to be, somebody fucks up here. It's just a bad decision. I think that you're right, but that does not excuse this stuff. That was a designer, probably? Well, then I hope they never make another fight again. I don't care about what the name of the person is. All I'm saying is that I do think that it is a genuine problem with the people that are making the game, that they don't understand the game. And I think that is a legitimate issue. It is a real thing. And it's not as simple as just the leadership, because the leadership are also probably fucking incompetent. I don't think it's like, it's not like, oh, the leadership are great and these guys are dumb. No, I think they're both stupid. That's what I believe.
XP, which, by the way, Season 2 has a hell of a lot more XP floating around than Season 1 did, and they've also done a bunch of, like, XP events on top of that. It's been kind of crazy. There's also the Abattoir of Zir. This is kind of interesting. This is them basically doing seasonal, like, endgame content, right? This will unlock, I believe, on the 5th of December, after you finish your seasonal journey. This is a new dungeon that basically is harder than a Tier 100 Nightmare dungeon. It's got 25 tiers of difficulty, but the jumps between each tier will be higher than in those Nightmare dungeons, and it basically exists to let players use all of that power that they have amassed. And yeah, that's basically what's going on. It is something there for the end game. It is temporary, only in this season. They've said that one of the reasons why it's kind of done like that, it lets them vary things up, but also this is basically them testing what they'll be doing for seasonal endgame content. So I would assume they do not want to be held to the first version of some sort of thing that they've got to keep on going forever.
It's smart for them to effectively have a beta for leaderboards.
Overall, then, it seems pretty decent. There is a special glyph that comes from it that gives you a multiplicative power bonus, and it also drops a...
Wow, bro, like, oh, fuck. Yo, I remember that one thing that we got in Diablo 3. As soon as we got that, like, you just scale that shit infinitely. It was like the longer you fight a boss, the more damage it does or something.
Hell of a lot of XP for your glyphs. Now, the new glyph will be really expensive to level up in terms of XP, which is why this event drops so much XP. But the sort of side part of that is that if you are able to do the Abattoir of Zir, you'll get loads of XP, so you can level up your other glyphs if you want to try those out. And there are no respawns, so yeah. Definitely there to be a bit harder. As for some other things, they have massive loot updates coming to the game. This I did think was quite interesting, as evidenced by their change into these Damage on Tuesdays shirt.
I think it's a great idea for them to monetize their fuck-ups. You know, we had What Sword as a shirt, and now we have Damage on Tuesdays. They're like, yeah, we fucked up, we know it, everybody knows it. Yeah, it's funny.
The idea that you maybe will get an affix in your gear that says, on Tuesdays, you do plus 30% damage, which totally makes me wonder if anybody has seen the Fizbin scene from Star Trek, the original series, where certainly the rules of the game Fizbin are, yeah, pretty spicy. But okay, what are these changes? Well, they haven't announced them yet, but they do seem to be rather massive. Basically, there are many different affixes in the game. People obviously will want specific things, and to many it's frustrating. You maybe have to go through 100 gloves or 200 gloves before you get the gloves that you want. So what they basically want is more ways to like customize, modify. I know there is like some re-rolling in the game, but they basically want to change that big time so that getting a cool item is more like a journey. That's how they put it. The idea, if you get...
I think that this is going to be a real struggle for Diablo 4, and I don't know how you can solve the problem that they have. Because they can't really add in Path of Exile's development system. Like a crafting system. They can't really do that. It's too complicated. So how do you fix this problem of like giving gear that players can work towards over time to make really good, and not have 100 trash affixes to increase the pool so it takes longer artificially, and also have a crafting system that's simultaneously intuitive for new and casual players, but also fulfilling for hardcore players? I think they have a huge fucking problem ahead of themselves, because they're trying to make two groups of people happy that want the exact opposite thing. Last Epoch, maybe Last Epoch has the solution, because like I don't know what the solution is. I don't know, but I think it's a big problem.
Get a cool item and you're excited that you'll be able to modify it and tweak it to your own ends, which seems fairly good. They then talked about how Season 2 changed many of the stats in the game, and the reason why they did it like that is because if you change one stat, well, it'll have knock-on effects on every other stat, if you're going to do changes, you kind of just have to do them all at once. And the same thing is happening with loot. This is targeted for Season 4, which will happen in 2024, and apparently they have a select group of Diablo content creators that they've been sort of consulting on with this one to get more feedback and to help them.
I really hope that they don't make the mistake that World of Warcraft made, where they're only asking people like Wadijo and Rax on like their advice on this. I really hope they're able to contextualize the feedback that they get from content creators as this is information we're getting from like hyper super serious omega like mega wizards. Like what happened with WoW is that WoW just got harder and harder and harder over the years because they kept listening to the top 1% of players. And then at a certain point, new players couldn't really get into the game very easily because you needed so much extra information
to iterate, which to me overall does sound pretty cool. And as an example, on the whole topic of a loot filter, they actually said that like they think a loot filter is important. It's not going to happen in season 3 because any loot filter that they do now will basically not function with the gear overhaul.
Yeah,
so
well,
basically seems like they're going to overhaul gear, which is pretty cool.
They need to. Thank God. Thank fucking God. Dude, gear was so good in Diablo 3 and I thought it was bad. But compared to Diablo 4, it was amazing. Here.
As for some
Let me show you guys, like, this is what the pinnacle is. Here it is. This is the pinnacle of crafting. Now, this obviously should not be what Diablo 4 turns into. However, in order for me to explain how this guy got to this item would take longer than watching the rest of this entire video. Best minion helmet ever made. This is a ridiculous fucking item. This is nuts. That is amazing. Yes, what the fuck? Dude, it's just, dude, look at the fucking, the implicit, man. That's what's so fucking insane, man. 7,300 divines. Well, the thing is that 7,000 divines for something like this is cheap.
Other things in season 3, Hell Tides
and Diablo 4 should not have that. By the way, Diablo 4 should not have that. But what I'm saying is that, like, for a serious player, like, for somebody who plays the game all the time, this is what they want. It needs to be in between.
Minutes, down for 5, and then up for 55 again. So clearly people just don't like having to wait around on the timers. That seems pretty good. They also said that item level 925 gear sources don't feel great, being Duriel and world bosses. So they want, more sources of that. And that basically is what's going on with Diablo 4. Expansion 1 to Expansion 2 is 18 months. Will it be 18 months after that? I'm not exactly sure, but certainly...
You know what Zizrain should do? He should do like a video series. Somebody should tell him this. He should do a video series where he takes some of the best items in the game and he explains how they were made. I actually think that would be like such a massive free farm, super popular series for for PoE players. And I think that people would even watch that weren't even PoE players. Just for like the level of complexity that people would be excited about. Why is this, Ryan? He's probably like one of the most popular YouTube content creators for PoE, and I think something like this would work really well for a PoE content creator. And also, I know him, so yeah, like a breakdown of like how an item like this exists, right? Empyrean does that, yeah. And there's another guy that does like crafting videos for it too. Quinn should make the video. Yeah, there you go.
I imagine they want a decently Call of Duty-like business model here where you just constantly have seasons with premium releases. And, I just think that's what they're going to be doing for the business model of this game. From what we understand, I don't know if they're the largest, but at one point they were. Basically, the D4 team is absolutely goddamn humongous. As an example, from the World of Warcraft team, they have got 2 expansion teams. So they're currently working on the War Within. They're also working in Midnight, and then they have a live team, and that's across about 600 developers.
And then there's the classic team, which is 3 people.
So yeah, these teams at Blizzard are
and the Wrath team, which is automated,
ginormous, which certainly does explain the kind of goofy amount of content that WoW's been getting recently. So overall, then, my thoughts are pretty simple. Diablo 4 has improved massively from Season 1 to Season 2. That's pretty much an undeniable thing. It's just going to be a case of, like, can they keep the improvement going? Will, I suppose, they have a healthy sort of state of affairs between them and Path of Exile, where there's just in general, there's so much ARPG content coming out these days. Like, this is, hell, even, there's cool things going on with Grim Dawn, as an example. So, yeah, there's a hell of a lot going on in the space. It's getting very, very competitive, but frankly, Season 1 to Season 2, really good trajectory of improvement. It's definitely true.
Like, Season 2 for Diablo 4, I actually think is unironically an 8 or a 9 for casual landies. I think it's a great game. Like, I would actually recommend it. I would be like, yeah, if you like ARPGs, you like this stuff, I think it's a great game. Now, for me personally, I played it for maybe a week and a half, and then I was pretty much done. And that's okay, because my week and a half is somebody else's 2 months.
Seem like now that they're basically targeting a full like loot overhaul for Season 4, it does seem like they're actually kind of getting there with their content cadence. It does seem they're actually listening to players. So yeah, overall,
well, that's why I think that people were so annoyed by what they were doing about like, oh, now you're gonna add pay to win. Like, I thought the game was just, now we're finally improving the game and you're gonna fuck it up again. I think he's
reasonable.
Right.
It's just, can you trust the suits not to cock the whole thing up and to throw their teams under the bus?
Exactly.
That's basically the situation. To which I would basically say, don't do a Destiny. And my god, the difference between D4 and WoW and Destiny 2 is insane. And I know, you know, price anchoring with Blizzard products, we are way more used to a very old school a la carte experience. You buy a game, that's it. Obviously, it ain't like that anymore. With D4, it is going to be you buy the game, you buy the expansions, and if you want cosmetics, you will buy either, you know, cosmetics in the store, or you'll buy the season passes. But over in Destiny 2,
I don't really care a lot about having to buy expansions. I don't think it's a big deal. And as long as there are cosmetics in the game that are worthwhile, worth working towards, then I don't really give a shit that much. I think one of the problems that Diablo 4 has right now is that most of their cosmetics don't look that good. They just don't. Because you're rich? No. I mean, if you can't afford a $40, $50 expansion like once a year, you need to stop playing video games and get your life together. Like, that's just the truth, man. Like, I'm not trying to be rude, but like, if this is something you're investing a large amount of your time into and you can't afford a $50 expansion, you need to rethink your life. Now, if you're in South America, one of those shit countries, right, where it's like your currency sucks, like Argentina, something like that, and you can't buy anything, then it's a different thing. But I'm talking about like in a Western country.
They have so much more monetized, and all the different ways that they basically try to chance their arm to get some sort of new form of monetization.
Yeah.
Basically, as far as I can tell, Bungie are essentially the gold standard in how to fumble the ball and how to not do a lot of these things.
Yeah, I wonder what's going on with this game. Like, it's so weird.
So, don't do that. Keep on making good changes. Like, say what you want about Blizzard, you know, the corporate entity. Say what you want about some of the money-making decisions, or even some of the design decisions that led us into the launch slate of Diablo 4. But in terms of actually responding to things, I do think they're basically doing a good job.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, who I'm going to listen to in this are action RPG players.
And I think it is, however, it is very unsettling that they even had this as a question. And I do think that Diablo 4 does have fundamental problems, like with the boss design and stuff like that. But he's right that they have been improving. It's definitely true.
And just about everything I've heard from Season 2 has been positive. And certainly at BlizzCon, talking to a lot of the people in the fan sites, the overriding opinion was, if only it launched with Season 2, not with Season 1, we would be in an entirely different conversation, which to me basically says, if D4 had had maybe 6 months more playtesting, 3 months more playtesting, something like that, and they were able to see some of these road bumps ahead of time, it would have been a different situation. So I actually do think the D4 is actually a game that could have used quite badly a polish-based delay. That being said, could always be that they had some design hypothesis about how the open world Diablo would play.
I think that what happened is Season 1 was massively unsuccessful and people dropped off in a huge way, and that's why they put the game on sale and everything, and they did all these like different ways to get people back into the game. I think that it was a massive failure, and that's the only reason why they're going back on it. So I don't think a longer testing period would have solved the problem, because the developers thought that there wasn't a problem until they started losing money. Because that's exactly what happened with World of Warcraft, is they only walked back bad design decisions whenever people quit the game.
That essentially just didn't play out in reality, and maybe the only way to fully sort of get that was to have real players playing the characters that they actually care about. Anyhow, that's it from this video. That's basically your update with D4, including the wacky situation of us being concerned about a survey and that suddenly turning into the internet. What a weird situation. Anyway, that's it for me. Of course, if you want to support the show, get early access to content, get Loading Screen, which is the newsletter that we publish, then check out badular.ghost.io. And of course, you can hang out with me and the team over in the Members Lounge Discord server, which is available to channel members on badular.ghost.io. So that's it for me. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.
I think that we should definitely not write off them doing something like this in the future and repackaging it as something that is not paying for power. I understand that, yes, obviously they say they're not going to do it, but keep in mind that Wyatt Chang, who works on the Diablo team on Diablo Immortal, tried to assure people that you couldn't buy power in Diablo Immortal, because you were not able to, because you couldn't buy actual gear. But the gear isn't where you got the power from, it was the gems. So, like, I don't entirely trust this stuff. I'm going to be totally honest, I don't. The phone guy, yeah, he was, but I felt bad for him in that situation, but what he said was extremely misleading. And so, yeah, companies give you control, but people don't think I do anything. It gets worse and worse. How they lose money. Diablo 4 is pre-ordered. Season 1 was for most players. Well, they lose money because it's not that they're losing money, it's that they're losing the money they were making. So, like, we were making this much money, now we're only making this much money. This is a problem. And again, like, logically, having these things on a questionnaire is unsettling. Keep in mind that a boost in Burning Crusade was on a questionnaire as well. There's the video. This is a great fucking video. I'm glad that Belluar made this. And I think it is very funny, obviously, whenever something like this gets popular and of
course lead to
it just makes its rounds. Everybody sees it. Yep, there it is. But anyway, I'll link you guys to get a video one more time. Make sure to give it a like. This is a great video.